Hello everyone. This story is about, what if Naruto had muted emotions and became a seal's master? Please like, share and subscribe for more. Also check the other fics I have uploaded. Now let's start. The first thing he noticed was his chakra flow. Sluggish was the initial sensation. Utterly beyond his control was the second. He could still feel it but could not exert influence over it, molded as he'd done countless times before. The next was his former team as he sat up in the brightly lit cell. Every wall stone except the one in front of him. Transparent but not glass, nothing obscured the three severe faces watching him in judgment. Kukuku, the reunion I've always hoped for. Wishes do come true. This cell has a series of fuinjutsu-enabled security measures, Hiruzen said, ignoring his traitorous student. If needed, I can cut your oxygen supply. Heat the room hot enough to incinerate you. Or turn you into a fine mist. Naruto-kun's been busy, Orochimaru said, recalling how one of his subordinates had experienced such a change in matter. If by some miracle you could escape this cell, there are seals placed on you all designed to deliver instant death. If you stall in giving us information, you die. If you try to escape, you die. If you displease me in any way, I die? Orochimaru said mockingly. I'll open your cell and show you why I'm the professor and you're the student, Hiruzen answered. It'd almost be worth it, sensei. Just to see you do it. Could you really beat me to death? If Danzo had not been present when I found you, you'd already have an answer to that question. Well, you've certainly laid out the stick, but where's the carrot? You must have lost your mind, sensei isn't going to give you anything, Jiraiya stated. He frowned when Orochimaru rolled his eyes, knowing what was coming next. Stupid Jiraiya, always a little slow on the uptake. Sensei may want me dead, but he needs me alive. Especially if you want the information I have about the Akatsuki. And sure, he could have me tortured, but he has to know I can survive anything he'd do to me, or in the case of Anko-chan, piss her off so much she goes too far. I'll die just to spite you, and then you'll get nothing. You have a little leeway, but don't push it. My list is short and shouldn't be a problem. 1. A library. If I'm going to be stuck in this cage, then I need something to occupy my mind lest I go insane. Done. What else? Oh, just access to Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said and swiftly felt the burn in his lungs associated with suffocating. He didn't falter, though, he refused. Instead, he stared at his sensei, daring the man to go to the edge. Time marched on, he felt his vision narrowing, but he still smiled. Soon, the game of chicken was over and he could breathe again. What do you possibly hope to gain from speaking to him? He isn't like you, isn't twisted nor malicious, said Jiraiya. Isn't like me? He's more like me than any of you could ever hope to understand. And whatever you think of me, at least I'd have protected him from what Sensei is doing to him, what he did to me. What did I ever do to you other than support you? Support? Even now you don't get it. It wasn't enough you had someone that could kill the wolves. You needed me to see myself as a protector of sheep, one of you. Before your ideology wormed its way into my head, corrupting me, I was pure. I sought not to be anything other than what I was. You made me believe I was something else. And because I lied to myself, I got to watch my students blow up in an IWA ambush. The sole family of my friend died in front of me. If I had remained pure, then not only would Nawaki's death have not been my fault, I wouldn't have cared. You tainted me, and when the inevitable happened and I, from your perspective, turned into a monster, you laid it squarely at my feet. And you're doing the same to Naruto-kun. A gift, maybe even purer than my own, greater than his father's, and you'll corrupt him too. Because it isn't enough for you that we be effective or powerful. It doesn't count unless we have the will of fire in our hearts. But he'll lose someone he can't afford to, and it'll break him. That void will be filled with a wrath you can't imagine. And it'll be your fault, sensei. Hiruzen simply looked at his fallen student, his emotions unreadable. He didn't know if this was Orochimaru trying to manipulate him, an ad hoc justification, or if he truly believed he'd been corrupted by a belief meant to give aid, comfort, and purpose. Hiruzen resigned himself with never knowing, and that triggered a pang of guilt. On some level, he never truly understood his student, and while that was no excuse, it was another failure. But he'd never let those words make him think differently about Naruto-kun. He knew his grandson and had no doubts about that. You're mad, Jiraiya said as Tsunade no longer looked angry, but remorseful. She ranted and raved when Nawaki died, blaming Orochimaru for not being there. She apologized, but the damage had, clearly, been done and she vacated the village soon after so could do nothing else. Am I? Tell me, Jiraiya, why isn't Minato alive? The Kyuubi killed him. Oh, I thought the Reaper Death Seal did that. Though, it isn't the only way to seal a bijou, not even the strongest. Theoretically, he could have chosen another sealing method and lived. He chose to die, why do you think that is? Shut up. I don't care what value you have, if you badmouth Minato, I'll kill you. I'm not insulting Minato, the exact opposite really. He was gifted with a greater degree of self-awareness than I was at his age. He saw his wife about to die and knew he didn't just have to protect the village from the Kyuubi, but from himself. He really thought it was safer to leave his only son an orphan, knowing there was someone after the Kyuubi he'd just sealed inside of Naruto Kuin than a world where he existed, but Kushina did not. You're wrong. Whatever Minato did, he thought it was for the best. He wouldn't have left Naruto alone if there had been another way, Jiraiya said in a raised voice, fist clenched and knuckles white. Sure. Are we done now? Come on, Jiraiya. This is what he wants, don't engage, Tsunade said, patting him on the shoulder. He nodded and relaxed. No, you will not have access to Naruto Kuin. That's a shame as I'll only give my intel to him. How far do you think you can push me? Hiruzen asked. Your mistake is thinking that's the goal. Just because this upsets you doesn't mean I'm trying to be upsetting. I simply wish to converse with the young man that handily defeated me. I am the leader of a hidden village, which makes this quite the feat. If he doesn't have a million Rio bingo book entry by month's end, I'd be disappointed, Kukuku. No, you will not be speaking with Naruto Kuin, Hiruzen said. If his student was confident in his resistance to torture, then he would demonstrate it for as long as necessary. Any affection the aged Hokage held for his student died in the forest of death. The trio departed without another word to Orochimaru, the heavy metal door slamming behind them as they entered the hallway. Where is the Gaki? I need to talk to him about challenging S-rank ninja. Jiraiya was not pleased when informed of Naruto's exploits, not at all. I'll direct you to him, but do keep in mind he was protecting a comrade, Hiruzen cautioned his student. Kakashi walked through the village, head buried in Jiraiya's latest manuscript. The copy ninja felt good. It had been so long he'd almost forgotten how it felt to be anything but hollow. It was a welcome change and he managed to feel only slightly guilty he hadn't sought treatment sooner. As he giggled at the hijinks of Akio, his mind also turned to his students. All three had impressed him during the first and second part of the exams, and while he'd have been delighted for all three to make it to the finals, ultimately Kakashi couldn't complain. Sakura may have drawn with Kurenai's student, but Kakashi could tell she'd also learned a lot about herself up to that point. She fought really well against an opponent that should have overpowered her, and Kakashi was glad she was learning how to apply her intelligence in combat. In truth, Sakura was always the most challenging of his students. She wasn't going to be a natural in ninjutsu nor tracking, his specialties, due to her small reserves. Where she may have talent, due to her chakra control, would be the medical and illusionary arts, but one teammate was being trained by Tsunade and the other had the Sharingan. She deserved to shine outside of her teammates, but the Hatake wasn't sure how he'd manage it. Next was Sasuke. Kakashi had been most impressed with the boy's emotional growth, his sessions seeming to pay dividends as well. Kakashi could see a reality where Sasuke would have gone with Naruto to face Orochimaru out of a confusing mixture of rivalry, jealousy, and loyalty. Instead, he heeded the advice of his teammate and got Sakura and himself to the tower. It was the kind of decision a Chunin would be expected to make and Kakashi knew that choice would benefit the Uchiha during final assessment. Now, he just had to figure out how to keep his student alive against a nihilistic Jinchuriki. A part of Kakashi wanted to pull Sasuke from the fight. It wasn't mandatory, it wasn't a mission, and Kakashi had little information on Gaara's abilities outside of sand manipulation. That suggested he had some version of the magnet release, and if he were in any way proficient with it Sasuke would be in for a tough fight. Then add on what effects the bijou could have on Gaara, and he may be walking his student into a death trap. But he knows Sasuke wouldn't back down, not before even trying. And if he'd known Naruto didn't just survive against Orochimaru, progress or no, Sasuke would refuse to yield to anyone in a show that he wasn't that far behind his teammate. Hey, Kakashi, Asuma called out, interrupting the copy ninja's thoughts. He was with his team, the lone kunoichi still sporting bandages on her shoulder, all standing outside a food stand. Team 10, good morning, he greeted. You seem to be faring well, Ino-chan. I'll have to let Naruto-kun know. You know where he is? Is he okay, she asked, hopeful he'd have the answer. I do. He is. In fact, he'll be on special assignment for the month, so don't be too surprised if he's not around much. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. Hinata and I were worried, Ino said. Kakashi almost scoffed. Ino may have been worried, but he was certain that Byakugan-wielding Honey Badger would have killed him if she'd had the skill to do so. He remembered those dead, lavender eyes when he refused her access to Naruto. He knew when someone was sizing him up, and she had. Of course, Kakashi replied and favored her with his eye smile. Well, I must be off, I wouldn't want to keep Sasuke waiting too long, he said as he walked away. And while he would eventually get to Sasuke, he had one stop to make before he could begin training the Uchiha. He faintly heard Ino mention she had to hurry as well. It was a short trip to the aviary, and as he predicted, two of the visiting Jounin sensei were sending messenger pigeons to their respective villages. He wasn't as confident in allowing people to spread the information about Naruto being Minato sensei's son, but the only way to stop it would be for him to kill a lot of people. Kakashi didn't necessarily have a problem with that, but he was too smart to ignore it would be a declaration of war on Konoha's part. War equals bad, so the intel would spread across the nation. Good morning, all, he greeted, and while the blonde Kumo kunoichi simply turned to him but remained indifferent. Baki, on the other hand, tensed. Good, Kakashi thought. Oh, he knew about Baki. Minato-sensei said the man had the gall to hit on Kushina-sama right in front of him. It was only the desire to avoid an international incident that Minato-sensei didn't disappear him. The man made Kakashi's Chidori hand itchy. Hataki-san, Baki said gruffly. I hope you are both enjoying your stay in our lovely village, Kakashi continued. It's cool, Samui said. She seemed to be a well-endowed lady of a few words. Kakashi could appreciate that. Twice a night and once in the morning if she were down. Such luxury makes a ninja soft, Baki answered, and Kakashi, I smiled at him. The man was confident he was safe until the end of the Chunin exams, Kakashi reasoned. I don't know, Baki-san. Our forests are lush, yes, but you could get lost for days, if not, years in that sea of trees. And who can say what lurks there? Why, some sand rat could find himself off the beaten path and never be found again. The trio became silent and Kakashi appreciated that Baki didn't ask if he were threatening him as he clearly was. Unfortunately, he was here in an official capacity, so he couldn't screw with the Suna Jounin for too long. Now, you two know some information that you shouldn't and are no doubt sending back to your villages. Hokage-sama has decided to allow it. But, and this is especially salient for you Samui-san. Should either party ever act on said information in a deleterious manner, Hokage-sama wanted to let you know he won't be nice like he was with Kushina nor demonstrate the understanding he showed with Hinata. Kakashi didn't wait for their reactions, didn't really care. He delivered his message and departed with a shunshin. You're late, was his greeting when he arrived at the team training grounds. He waved off Sakura's outburst. He was only a little late. What excuse is it this time, Kakashi? Sasuke asked. I got distracted by two impossibly round cantaloupes. Ino composed herself as she walked into the training area with numerous Hyuga members gathered. Hayashi, Hinata, and the rest of Team 8 were in the center of the room and by all appearances they hadn't started yet. She slid to the side as to be out of the way but saw that Hinata knew she was there. The Yamanaka hadn't known why Hinata wanted her there, even if she could guess, but she hadn't predicted a family gathering. Today, Hayashi spoke with authority. We acknowledge my eldest daughter and clan heiress for making it to the final round of her first Chunin exams. There was some polite clapping, but it was short-lived. The only way to do it truly is for me to also acknowledge I was wrong. I pushed you hard when you were younger because I believed it to be the one, true way. I faltered and lost hope when you didn't respond. When you told me you wanted to be a Hyuga your way, I only thought you were simply avoiding tradition. Hayashi walked toward his daughter and put his hands on her shoulders. I was wrong. I am glad I was wrong, but sorry I needed you to prove me so. He let go and began addressing the room once more. Hers is but one future path for the Hyuga, the first change of many I suspect. I request you all to aid her, push her, and be open as she is only at the beginning of a very long journey, but one that will benefit the clan if we let it. For the duration of the month, her Jounin sensei, Karina Yuhi-san, will be her primary trainer. As the person most responsible for Hinata's progress, I wouldn't intercede, but any resources you need from the clan will be made available. Karina nodded. If there is nothing else, then you are dismissed. Ino waited patiently as several members congratulated or otherwise made offers of support to Hinata. Once they were all gone and it was just Team 8 and her, she approached the lady of the hour with a wide smile. Who knew you could earn so much from a well-timed kick in the nuts, Ino joked. Hinata giggled. I think Niji will hate me for the rest of life, she lamented. He'll get over it, Ino dismissed. She didn't know much about the older boy, but he was considered a prodigy and just shy of a raging asshole to those he felt beneath him. Really, that was enough. So what can I do for you? I'll be healed up in a few days, but I don't know how much help I'd be. I was going to ask you to help me but in a more official capacity, Hinata explained as she handed Ino a mission scroll. I was hoping you'd do a little information gathering for me. Ino considered the offer. It was the best way for her to help. She trained hard, but she wasn't near Hinata's level of combative skill yet. Besides, it could be treated as training for herself. She was under no illusion that sneaking up on Jounin would be simply so. The heiress smiled as she gave her answer. Of course, Ino said. Asuma-sensei had already said they wouldn't be taking missions during the month, so she had the free time and the money could go to some new threads for the upcoming season. Oh, I saw Kakashi-sensei right before I came here. Ino watched Hinata's face turn sour. Any word on Naruto-kun? Ino nodded. He said he would be on special assignment for the month, so we shouldn't expect to see him much, but he was otherwise fine. That's good. Besides, I know Naruto-kun will get in contact with us as soon as he can. Oi, Hinata. We're burning daylight, Kiba yelled. Hinata got a mischievous glint in her eyes as she turned to her teammate. I didn't realize you were in a rush to lose to another girl so soon, Kiba-kun, she said. He sputtered excuses about it being a tie, but Shino argued tying when you were expected to win was basically a loss. Ino laughed at their dynamic as it was much more lively than what she had with Shika and Choji. Karen couldn't overcome the feeling of strangeness that swelled within her. It started when she arose from her death. That wasn't. It continued with the really nice hospital staff that attended to her as she regained full mobility. The oddities continued when an aged woman, one claiming to be an advisor to the Hokage, explained what had occurred, that she was free from Kusa and could reside in Konoha safely. Without shame, Karen broke down in front of the stranger. It wasn't what a good kunoichi would do, but she was never really trained to be a kunoichi at all. She was just a thing to be passed around, kept alive long enough to eventually be bred, before dying like her mother. She hated Kusa, she hated everyone that resided in that accursed village, and even if it were a cruel trick, the Uzumaki let her tears flow for even the illusion of freedom. The older woman had placed a comforting hand on her back, rubbing it gently, and offered words of comfort and encouragement. Once Karen regained control, it was explained fully that she owed her liberation to one Uzumaki Naruto, the boy she'd seen in the forest. A boy who shared nothing with her, but a clan name had gone through such trouble. For one and used to kindness or consideration, it was overwhelming. That sense of being overwhelmed, of the innate strangeness of her new reality, didn't abate as she walked through the village. People smiled at her, greeted her, treated her like she belonged. It was a struggle not to tear up at the treatment as she didn't want to make her escort feel acquired. Her escort, another peculiarity, had to be the prettiest girl she'd ever seen by a wide margin. We're here, said the angelic beauty. Huh? Karen asked and internally lamented the undignified response. This is where you'll be staying, at least until you can arrange your own lodgings. Karen took a good look at the apartment tower, clearly newly built or renovated. It was beyond anything she expected, at least from the outside. Are you sure? Of course, said the older girl with a smile. Now, please, follow me, she requested, and Karen did, without second thought. She was led to a corner apartment on the top floor. And again, Karen was thrown for a loop at the fully furnished, one-bedroom apartment. I'm sure Naruto-kun will show up to set up your security seals, but the key is sufficient for now. You have vouchers for the grocery store on the grounds and money for any necessities you may need to buy. If you can wait a few days, I may be able to wrangle a friend to go clothes shopping with you. She knows where all the best deals are. And should you need anything else, I'm just 2 doors down. Karen took in all the information, it was on its face easy enough to understand, but she was gripped by the most sincere confusion. Why, she asked. Why any of this, why all of it? Why? You'll have to ask Naruto-kun as well, he is very straightforward, he is not the easiest person to understand, but no, he expects nothing in return. No ninja is that kind, Karen rebuffed. She didn't mean to sound ungrateful, but this simply wasn't how the world worked. Several months ago I would have agreed. Then on a mission gone bad I was captured by the enemy and held hostage to stall my master from completing his tasks. The same person that captured me went on to become my best friend and gave me a chance to live here for no other reason than I was his friend. You mean you weren't born here? No, I was not. I do not know what you have endured and will not pry, but believe me when I say that you can trust in this. Karen nodded and flopped onto her couch. It was blue and comfy, and hers. The older girl let herself out, knowing it took time to adjust to such disparate treatment. Yugao Yuzuki, known to comrades and victims alike as ANBU Nico, was having a great day. Hayate was having the rare good morning and actually felt well enough he made her breakfast. Then, once she reported for duty, she got to train with Naruto-kun by introducing him to some of the basic routines ANBU recruits are subjected to. He did well, she thought, though wouldn't deny a measure of bias. She even convinced he keep the Kusanagi and started him on beginner katas to wield a jien. Her unit seemed to warm up to him, too. Boar showed him some tips to improve his fire jutsu and walked him through the nature change exercises. Bear sparred with him for a bit and gave him pointers on how to better transfer his natural strength into his blows without sacrificing speed. Even Tenzo took him to the side to train him in something secret. It was great, and while she didn't think the commander's harebrained scheme would work, it wouldn't be due to lack of effort on her part. And the best part? He agreed to call her Yugane when she was off duty. Oh, she was going to enjoy rubbing that in Kakashi's face. So, as she escorted the two loyal sannin to Naruto's temporary room, she didn't think anything could undercut her mood. That belief should have been a warning that something was amiss, but in her excitement in connecting with what should have been her little brother and relief in paying Kushina-sama's time and effort, forward Yugao was overly optimistic. It all came to a halt when she opened the door. Initially, she didn't believe what she was seeing. It just didn't translate, that's how unbelievable the vision was. Jiraiya's wolf whistle brought her back to reality. One Naruto sitting on his bed writing something down. That was fine. What was not fine were the three clones standing around the shirtless ANBU agent. In her sudden onset of bloodlust, she couldn't even remember the agent's codename. Antelope? Gazelle? Dead bitch? That was the one. With lightning speed her hand was on the hilt of her sword. What are you doing, agent? She asked and watched as her fellow ANBU paled. Good. Fear makes the kill more satisfying, more real. Completing Hitaki-sensei's training. I think I figured out the hidden lesson, too, Naruto said as if that explained anything. Then Nico remembered the garment she confiscated because her idiot former captain gave a 12-year-old a bra. She was going to kill him next. Nearing a complete surrender to her bloodlust, she didn't pay much attention to the real Naruto walking over to Tsunade and handing her his notes. The sannin read over it quickly, though she wasn't any more accepting of what she was seeing. It was written in her contract she was only allowed to assault rude ANBU in fits of rage. She wanted to admonish her student. She didn't teach him the medical arts to scam on chicks, but quickly realized he wouldn't know what scamming on chicks meant. Besides, despite herself, he was onto something with this preliminary report. Damn genius pervert. Look, Naruto, I'll let you run with this under Shizen's supervision, but no more half-dressed ANBU in your room. Tsunade took a beat as she looked into those unnaturally blue eyes and remembered who she was speaking to. And no fully undressed ANBU in your room either. Got it? Yes, sensei, Naruto answered. And you, scurry along. Tsunade barked at the agent. True, she looked to be only 16, but that was old enough to know better. Said agent grabbed her shirt and hastily retreated but heard the threat Nico hissed at her as she passed. With the harlot gone and the clones dispelled, Yugao thought the trouble had passed, but Jiraiya stomping into the room suggested otherwise. Without warning he picked Naruto up and slammed his fist on top of his head. What the hell were you thinking going after Orochimaru alone? Naruto didn't answer verbally but wasn't going to take in, to his perspective, unprovoked assault without response. As fast as he could he launched at Jiraiya. The Sannin stood firm, thinking the boy was trying to tackle him, but he was wrong. Using the surface sticking technique, Naruto scaled the Sannin, ending up on Jiraiya's back. Naruto wasted no time applying a choke to his godfather and squeezing as hard as he could. Yugao went to stop the scuffle, but Tsunade stopped her and shook her head. The ANBU was confused, but Tsunade said, "They need this, and the idiot won't go overboard." Yugao wasn't completely convinced, but did not intercede. Jiraiya hadn't responded to the choke, but could acknowledge his godson had some good squeeze applied and a fair bit of natural strength. Still, he wasn't anywhere near Jiraiya's physical strength, and the Toad Sage peeled Naruto off him with minimal effort. He slammed him on his bed hard enough to undo the sheets, which Jiraiya used to wrap Naruto in, and swung him around his head several times before, once again, slamming the Uzumaki on his bed. Maybe it was overconfidence or underestimation, but Jiraiya never expected the immediate response to his juvenile attack. He certainly wasn't prepared for the dynamic entry Naruto performed near flawlessly. Jiraiya dropped to the floor, Naruto following him as the dizziness overcame him. The only response the Sannin could muster was to his teammate. "Nade. He kicked me. In the dick." Tsunade ignored him and picked Naruto up, they had work to do. "Hokage-sama," a voice called and broke Hiruzen from his paperwork. His finely honed mind picking out details that didn't seem to fit the situation. His longtime assistant was nervous, clutching a package to her chest that she was likely there to give to him. The package itself couldn't have been distressing, she wouldn't hold it so close to her, which led her to believe it was his reaction that concerned her. He couldn't blame the poor woman, he'd been snappish for days and looking for a fight that never came. "Tamano, please come in," he welcomed her with a friendly tone. "What can I do for you?" "A package arrived late last night from the Raikage. We submitted it to all security checks and it came back clear," she explained. "Okay," he said. Tamano allowed her graying locks to cover her eyes as if she were bracing for impact. "It's a new bingo book, Hokage-sama." Oh, Hiruzen thought. The new editions were to be released today. If I sent one specifically to him, it meant he had an entry he thought Hiruzen wouldn't like. It was a tradition started by the second Mizukage. Sometimes it was a veiled threat, others a sign of recognition, but there was always a motive behind it. "Just leave the package with me, it'll be fine," Hiruzen assured her. The woman did as instructed and departed a little faster than the aged Hokage felt necessary. He'd been surly, but he wasn't some fire-breathing dragon. Opening the package, Hiruzen snatched a falling item before it could hit his desk. Unfolding the piece of paper, the Hokage realized it was a letter from his Kumo counterpart. "Hey old monkey. Thought you could hide Minato's boy from me, eh? You had a good, little run, but that's over now. Tell him to get faster, I haven't had a rival in speed for over a decade and I will judge if he's fit to replace his father. Don't worry, it won't be at the finals, I'm sure you'd love for me to have an accident on my way to your village. Who knows, maybe the overbearing tree will become too limiting and he'll want to know what it's like when the sky's the limit. Besides, I hear he may have a taste for a flavor of kunoichi only found in Kumo. Only time will tell." Hiruzen fought the urge to scramble a platoon of ANBU, his desire to remind I that most accidents happen at home not befitting his position. Finally getting to the latest bingo book, Hiruzen thumbed to the section marked with a yellow tab. He opened it and read his grandson's entry as he lamented his failure to well and truly keep him hidden before he was ready. Name, Uzumaki Naruto. Age, 12. Alias, Konoha's Koroigusta Peppa. Affiliations, Konoha, Toad Clan, Uzumaki Clan. Skills, Fuinjutsu, Bojutsu, Katanjutsu. Rank, Genin. Bio, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, student of Hatake Kakashi and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Single-handedly killed over 60 ninja during a solo raid of a base belonging to Orochimaru of the Sannin and his Otogekure ninja. Also managed to defeat and capture Orochimaru in a separate engagement, killing 8 more ninja in the skirmish. Possibly specializing in infiltration and mass exterminations. The shinobi is silent, calm, and analytical. A threat to even experienced ninja if they are not careful. Engage only if mission critical, Jounin or Chunin teams. Genin, flee. Bounty, 1 Ryo. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Hiruzen chuckled at the alias. The yellow ghost pepper would have sent Kushina over the moon. He could see the animated woman bragging to Biwako and him about it, and then the pair having to spend the next hour talking her out of going to kill Ai. It brought a pain to his chest, thinking about his wife and Kushina. On what they were deprived of who'd been deprived of them. It hurt, and while he had plenty of work to do and needed to inform Naruto's teachers about this, Hiruzen took a moment as not even Hokage were free from grief. You seem in a good mood, Tsunade-sama, Shizen observed as she took a seat across from her mentor. You say that like it's a rarity, Shizu-chan, Tsunade responded, but never took her eyes off her work. The two were in her temporary office, Dragon having made some space for her as a concession for stealing her student. When Shizen didn't respond, Tsunade took it as confirmation that was her exact position. She couldn't deny the truth of it, so didn't take offense. Well, it's nice to cut again. It's nice to be doing medicine again, and if I can figure out my part of the stasis solution, we'll have a dramatic impact on admission fatalities. Shizen smiled and nodded. What are you leaning toward? Foam. Some kind of cryo foam, but knowing where I want to go doesn't necessarily get me there any faster. I'll figure it out, eventually, she said. She was the queen of elixirs, so it would be a blow to her pride to be stalled. How about your little project? Tsunade asked, though her tone was anything but encouraging. Really now, Tsunade-sama, Shizen admonished, this is as valid a topic for medical treatment as anything else. I know, sorry. Really, how are things coming along? Tsunade asked more sincerely. Good. We have years of data and can say with a high degree of confidence that kunoichi experience a higher percentage of lower back injuries, the rate only increasing as activity diminishes. Because the diminished use of chakra no longer buttresses the lower back muscles? Tsunade asked. She had to admit, she was a little embarrassed, she had never considered the problem. She'd heard of civilian women complaining of lower back pains, and they all assumed she suffered the same, but they were wrong. Subconsciously, she and all other kunoichi had a way to avoid those pains, but it also left the muscles tense and easily strained in comparison to shinobi. Her main problem was its strained credulity that her other student came to this insight because that idiot Kakashi gave him a bra. She knew his mind didn't work like other people's and could accept it, but even that had its limits. She refused to accept that medical advancements would come via the boy's libido. Refused. And potential treatments? Tsunade asked, pressing on. I've been in touch with our physical therapy team and they are working on it. Uh-huh. And the other thing? The Senju questioned, looking down at Shizen's chest. Oh, it's wonderful. I almost forget they are there sometimes, her student beamed. Naruto hadn't reinvented the wheel, but a seal that can calibrate to and redirect the same force that the breasts exert in each cup. It was inventive. I still don't see why you had to be the test subject, Tsunade stated. Because Nico-san and you scared most of the female ANBU away from Naruto-kun when he just wanted to help. Uh-huh, the blonde medic said, but not at all buying it as the only reason. The effects of the newest addition to the bingo book rippled throughout the village. 3 men gleamed in anticipation of finally upholding a promise over a decade in the making. 2 foreign kunoichi lamented the rakage reveling in his man-crush on the Yondaime Hokage, and his delight in thumbing his nose at the Sandaime Hokage. And 1 shinen instructor jumped at every shadow, terrified the ANBU would snatch him up at any moment. None of that had reached Naruto yet, the rookie chunin having been summoned by Kakashi, via Pakken, to meet him at Team 7's training grounds. As it was Hound making the request, Commander Dragon allowed Naruto to depart. So, here the blonde sat, Pakken on his lap as he gently patted his head as he watched his teammate train with Kakashi. They hadn't sparred for long, not even 30 minutes, but Naruto already saw some problems. Sasuke was shaky, and his body had clearly hit a wall well before he was accustomed. Sweat poured from his brow, and he was breathing through his mouth. It was time for him to go to work. Stop, he called out as he approached sensei and teammate. He retrieved a bottle of hand sanitizer and gestured for Sasuke to sit. The Uchiha did just that. Naruto activated the diagnostic jutsu and mentally recorded notes. Within 20 minutes, he had reached a conclusion. Your nutrition isn't adequate for the level of training you're doing. Your body is forcing your chakra to compensate, but the increased usage means you aren't recovering as fast at night, which requires more chakra to compensate. Had you continued the cycle, you would have gone into shock from chakra exhaustion within 3 days. Sasuke nodded, masking his discomfort with the emotionless tone that provided the explanation. The Uzumaki handed Kakashi a list while Sasuke digested what was said. He was unhappy with the news, but relieved to know there was a reason he hadn't felt like he'd progressed in the last few days. He thought he had a well-balanced diet, so that was concerning. What did you hand Kakashi? Sasuke asked. A list of vitamins and supplements. You could get with a nutritionist as well, but if this is just for the exams, then the supplements would be adequate. No more training today and none tomorrow. Sasuke nodded and elected to wait on going to see someone as it'd just take time out of his training. Sasuke wanted to argue for the sake of his pride, but he felt like crap and could use the rest, so he nodded. Why didn't you give the list to me? He inquired. Hatake-sensei handles the team's expense account, Naruto answered. Oh, okay. The what now? Sasuke asked, with a little heat. Naruto looked at him in confusion. The expense account, he repeated, slowly. Sasuke-kun. Greasing the right palm can take you further than violence in many cases, but it wouldn't be right for ninja to lose money while in service to the village. So for that and other various outflows, we are reimbursed. And thanks to Naruto-kun bribing Ibiki, I've hit my cap for the fiscal, which means I can request a limit increase. Sasuke found it weird how happy his sensei sounded about mundane administrative tasks when he was near impossible to get a rise out of for anything else. The Uchiha just shook his head even with his analytical mind demanding to reach a conclusion. He decided Kakashi was unexplainable. It was just simpler that way. Kakashi, performing the summoning jutsu, broke Sasuke from his thoughts. Okay, you lot have fun with Naruto-kun, he said and then turned to Sasuke, let's go, with no more prompting as he took off. Sasuke could faintly hear the Ninken barking in the distance. It didn't take much effort to catch up to Kakashi, and the Uchiha was curious. Why did you summon your dogs? They needed exercise, Naruto likes playing with them and I was taking time away from his own training. Seemed like a fair trade, Kakashi explained, but the need to needle his student pushed him further. Are you jealous? You want to play with them? What? No, Sasuke denied. Oh, okay, Kakashi said. You know, Hokage-Sams is thinking of pulling Naruto from the team. Why? The Uchiha asked. Officially, both of you are high-profile targets, so it would be safer to have you separated in case another village tries anything. Unofficially, I think Hokage-sama believes Naruto's team with Jiraiya is better for him since he actually gets along with Haku and Sai. Kakashi was hardly being subtle, but Sasuke got his point. We can work together and not be friends. That is true. You could also accept that he's not Itachi and open up a little, Kakashi pressed. Sasuke's shoulders dropped. Yes, he could, except no, he really couldn't. He knew Naruto wasn't stoic but impaired, he really couldn't help being that way, but his manner constantly reminded him of the person he hated most. That Naruto seemed to be better than him didn't help matters. I'm sorry, Kakashi. I can't. It's fine, Sasuke, Kakashi said. I'm not asking for an overnight turnaround. Besides, we need to focus on Gaara, everything else is secondary. Sasuke grunted in agreement. He was jumping at everything. Every unsuspected shadow, every creeping sound. That one entry in one book reduced him to this. That the Kyuubi reduced him to this nearly pushed, was enraging. But there was no time for rage. Rage would scare the brats would alert Iruka. Or maybe a couple of jounin. Or, sage forbid, the ANBU. He didn't know why he even bothered with the new bingo book. Sure, it was causing a stir at the check-in station, but he'd gotten used to ignoring the weak fools of this village. But today was different. He engaged and learned. In black print, submitted by Kumo, therefore cleared by the Raikage himself. Uzumaki Naruto, the demon in human form, looked back at him. Those dead eyes judged him just like the little bastard did in real life. Mizuki hated it. The judgment. Hated it. The beast. Hated it. This village that allowed the beast to judge him. How, he asked himself. How could the Kyuubi capture Orochimaru? And how long before the man gave him up? Mizuki didn't know, but couldn't wait to find out. He needed to escape, to put as many miles between him and the land of fire as he could. His life as he knew it was over, he had no doubt. And while he was filled with panic, even fear could override his true nature. Mizuki was a man gripped by resentments, large and small. He resented never becoming more than a Chunin instructor. He resented the Hokage's lack of trust in him. He resented having to rely on Orochimaru to get stronger and gain some recognition. A nuke only free because of the Sandaime. In that resentment, a foul idea was taking seed. His life was over. His life. What few friends, what paltry relationships he allowed himself, would end. He'd be on the run for the remainder, ducking cutthroats until his last days. It was to be a miserable existence, he knew, but he couldn't picture giving up. A terrible life was better than no life by Mizuki's estimation, but it didn't mean he couldn't get a little satisfaction. Alright, everyone, head out for target practice, Irika ordered. The children put away their things and rushed to the door. Mizuki watched as his chance for a taste of revenge was one of the last out. Luckily, Irika had run off to catch up with the others. Hey, Konohamaru, wait, he said in his friendly voice. Yes, Mizuki-sensei, he asked, turning to the man standing at the back of the empty classroom. Irika asked me to pull you back. Since you're doing so well, I'm going to teach you how to throw a Fuma Shuriken, it's my specialty. Really? He asked, excitedly. Mizuki smirked, it'd be too easy. Yes, really. Thing is, the Fuma Shuriken is large and powerful, so we'll have to go somewhere else to practice. Konohamaru nodded and followed along, Mizuki making sure to chart a path out of Irika's eyesight. Mizuki led the little bastard to a shed that contained a go bag. He chopped the Sarutobi on the neck and stuffed him into it and then fled. He knew he had to be breaking personal bests with how fast he was moving, but he had to create as much distance as possible. Taking to the trees, passing through training areas, his only thought was to reach the wall. He repeated it like a mantra. Reach the wall, reach the wall. He timed it with his breathing and running motion. Every step a word. Reach the wall. Reach the wall. He was focused and felt more like a shinobi than he had in years. Reach the wall. Reach the wall. In all his focus, in the pleasure of possibly getting revenge, the fear of getting caught, Mizuki stopped thinking about his hostage. One he hadn't restrained, just knocked out. A little boy, afraid yes, but not unschooled in the ways of the ninja. A boy who took his surrogate brother's words to heart, so when Naruto told the young Sarutobi to always have a cutting instrument on him, he complied. The fabric of the travel bag was no match for Kono's dagger. Mizuki heard the rip, but even as it broke him from his internal chant, it still took him a few beats to realize what happened. Just long enough for Konohamaru to engage the emergency protocols. Firstly, one of his fuin beads was a flashbang and the boy tossed it toward his sensei before running off. The next step would take time, so in his panicked excitement, he simply took off in the opposite direction. Ugh, little shit. Mizuki yelled. His vision was slowly returning, but his hearing was still compromised. He could still track the brat's trail. He took off. He, initially, was going to send pieces of the kid back to his grandfather, but now he'd just kill him outright. Mizuki retrieved his collapsible Fuma Shuriken. His hands were shaking. He felt like a wild animal driven mad with bloodlust, and it spiked when his sights landed on his prey. He let loose his weapon of choice, delighted when he heard it cut through the air. But he didn't hear the squelch of blade penetrating flesh nor the screams of pain that would follow. Not even the thunk of the projectile hitting a tree. No, somehow the little shit ducked at the exact right time. Mizuki wouldn't stand for that. He appeared above the boy and picked him up, punching him in the gut with his free hand. Spittle flew, and his eyes tightened. Yes, that was the look of pain he wanted to see. But maybe he could heap on some additional agony before he offed the boy. To get his attention, Mizuki slapped Konohamaru twice, front then back of the hand. You must think you're so special being the honorable grandson. Walking around with your chest puffed out. Even more so, because of your precious Nizan, and yet you don't know that they are lying to you. Naruto Uzumaki may have been born human, but the Yondaime, his own father, sealed the Kyuubi into him. He's the fox now, that's why he isn't like us. A filthy demon couldn't mimic human emotions. Me Mizuki-sensei, Konohamaru spoke. What brat? Shut up, the boy answered as he placed his fuin bracelet on Mizuki's wrist. The man felt his body seize as the shock seal went into effect. He dropped Konohamaru before he hit the ground and the boy ran off, bruised and battered but still able to move. Mabui was tuning out Omoi and his particular brand of speculation. She, too, was curious about the Fuma shuriken that landed on their training area, but as it was nowhere near any of them chalked it up to an accident. Karui demanded the lone shinobi shut up. Samui was doing an excellent job of ignoring them. Mabui didn't fault Karui. Omoi could be vexing, his fantastical paranoia an ever-present attribute. The prudent choice was to wait for the owner to arrive, to be calm about the whole thing and not make up grand stories about someone being abducted and making a hasty escape. Until she saw a small boy, bloody nose, and swollen cheeks running toward her like he was being pursued by the embodiment of death. She stood and slowly approached. The boy was clearly panicked and didn't seem to notice they were foreign ninja, as that would have only made things worse. What happened? She asked, but the answer never came. As soon as he heard the landing of the man behind him, the boy instinctively got behind her. Shivering, he was too terrified to do much else. "Oh ho, it seems you have found my wayward student," the man said with fake sincerity. She could see the tightening of his eyes, the repressed fury. No instructor should be that mad at a child. "Aren't you a little far out for an academy student?" Mabui asked. "Ah, this one likes to skip and spy on ninja, to learn cool techniques. It is my job to get my back to class, so if you would." "Come on, Konohamaru, we've wasted enough time and any further delays will make your punishment worse." Mabui felt the boy clutched at the back of her top. Things weren't adding up and she could tell her team had reached a similar conclusion. It wasn't a leap to conclude the Fuma shuriken belonged to him and he'd somehow managed to miss the child. As a moral being, she couldn't let the child return to his custody, but if Kumo harmed another Konoha ninja outside of the exams it would do irreparable harm to her village and its relationship with Konoha. But, once again, Mabui's internal deliberations were interrupted by the arrival of another party. This one, however, had no interest in talking. She saw the gleam of a blade before she could fully make out the newest arrival and wasn't sure of who she was seeing until said figure executed a kick to the throat of the falling man. Then she heard and saw the dogs as they surrounded the much smaller attacker and his victim. Even with his orange hood up, she could see the distinctive blonde hair of one Uzumaki Naruto. The way Konohamaru darted toward him made her believe the two had a pre-existing relationship. The flying tackle into a hug all but confirmed it. She watched as the blonde said something to the boy and then several of the dogs departed with him. Only the one with sunglasses stayed as Naruto tied up the unconscious Chunin. After securely binding the man and picking him up and playing him across his shoulders, the Uzumaki made eye contact with Mabui. "Mabui-san," he greeted, or she assumed it was a greeting. "Uzumaki-san," she replied back. "You look nice today," he offered, and she hadn't been expecting it. She tried to deflect as to not encourage any teasing from Samui later. "Thank you, but this is just my standard outfit while on duty." "Oh," he said and paused, "then you must look nice every day." He said no more, disappearing in a shunshin with the dog hot on his trail. Sitting at her table and sharing a pot of tea with Karen-chan had become an enjoyable feature of Haku's days. Getting to know the girl over the last few weeks was a delight. The two had a lot to bond over and Karen-chan seemed to warm up to Haku's gentle prodding. She thought the girl was a little fixated on Naruto, but given her utter devotion to Zabuza-sama, she could hardly judge. It was nice making another friend and having someone fawn over Chappie-kun as he was a hardworking bunny and deserved it. A heavy knock on her door surprised the pair. She hadn't been expecting company. That Konohamaru was there with 3 of Kakashi's summons further confused her, though that was overridden by his injuries. The largest dog, Bull, gave her a rundown of what happened, but she could tell there was more as she escorted Konohamaru to her couch. The boy hadn't spoken much beyond a pat greeting and wouldn't even meet the Yuki's eyes. "Kono-kun, what's wrong?" she asked. She could tell he was torn and whatever it was he needed to share. He shot a quick look at Karen. "That's Uzumaki Karen, she's going to be staying in Konoha for a bit." "Niken has a clansman?" he asked in genuine wonder. Haku nodded. "They met during the Chunin exams. I'm sure she'd tell you the story sometime if you're interested." "Sure would," Karen reassured. "But why don't I give you two some alone time for now?" she offered. "No. Niken would say it's rude to make your guest leave because I showed up." "I think he'd understand given the circumstance," Haku stated. "And if you don't feel comfortable talking in front of Karen-chan, that's fine." Konohamaru shook his head in the negative. He looked down once more and his body started shaking. I did everything wrong. I was so scared. I dropped Niken's dagger and would have been killed if I didn't trip on a tree root. He wouldn't have been too afraid to even think. I'm a coward, the boy bellowed. Konohamaru, Haku said as she tilted his head up, being afraid doesn't make you a coward. And you're comparing who Naruto-kun is now to who you are now, neither of us know how he'd have handled this. But what I do know is a Chunin tricked, betrayed and abducted you. His goal was to flee with you. Your goal was to escape. You're here, he's captured. That's a win. But I didn't do anything. You escaped. You stalled. I'm assuming Naruto-kun gave you something to signal him if you were ever in danger, so you called for backup. You did everything that could be expected of you, Kono-kun. Then why do I feel like a failure? Because when someone makes you afraid, it can also make you feel weak and small. All the stories we have show courage as overcoming our fears, but I think survival takes its own kind of strength. And for ninja, for those who endure, the ability to survive is central to our being. And sometimes a part of that survival is sheer dumb luck. We can't control luck. But that's partially why we train. Being faster, stronger, smarter doesn't guarantee victory, but they tip the odds in your favor. But you should never think any situation presents you with an absolute chance of victory. That Chunin did, and now look at him, defeated by an academy student. Niken dash. His goal was to abduct you. Yours was to escape. While all the rest matters, in a fight between ninja, the one that achieves their goal is the victory, the one who doesn't is the loser. This is your win, Konohamaru. You understand? The boy nodded and graced her with a hesitant smile. She left to get her first aid kit, but upon her return, she saw the boy sleeping, Chappie-kun faithfully keeping watch. This was all for now. Hope you liked it. Please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more great stories. See ya.